stand here, I'm Rabbi Seth Goldstein of Temple Beth Philo here in Olympia, and we are gathered here this evening with heavy hearts after the events of this past weekend. We mourn the loss of life and the hatred that caused it, but we also stand here firm in our resolve to counter such hate with love. We stand here to raise our voices of moral concern for the state of our society. When hatred such as that which was demonstrated in Charlottesville is allowed to go unchecked, when a politics based on fear and persecution is left unanswered, the damage can be devastating. We in the Jewish community know this all too well. We have seen this before in our lifetime, and we see it again now. As we stand with Charlottesville, we stand with all who feel targeted, all who feel vulnerable, all who are oppressed. We stand for love and justice. We stand with the commitment to the values of compassion and peace that bring people together, not drive them apart. We condemn the overt hatred on display this past weekend, and we condemn the complacency and complicity that allowed it to take root and fester and grow. 227 years ago this month, shortly after this new country was formed, the organized Jewish community of Newport, Rhode Island wrote a letter to the newly elected President, George Washington. It was a letter of congratulations to the new leader, but the other message of the letter was darker. A Jewish community that had faced persecution and oppression for centuries, having been driven forcibly from their homes many times over, wanted to know if this new place, these United States, would be a safe haven, a sanctuary. Washington wrote back, thanking the community for its well wishes on his presidency, and assured the community that Jews would be welcome and equal and benefit from the liberty promised to all. In that letter, he wrote these famous words, that the United States, quote, gives to bigotry no sanction, to persecution no assistance. To bigotry no sanction, to persecution no assistance. We have, as we know, failed in our ability to fully realize these words. Indeed, we as a country built on the backs and land of others have much to atone for. At the same time, we have much to aspire to. We must now more than ever affirm these words and ideals, that we give to bigotry no sanction, to racism no sanction, to anti-Semitism no sanction, to homophobia no sanction, to Islamophobia no sanction, to xenophobia no sanction, to all forms of oppression and persecution no sanction. And rather we strive to build a just community that celebrates diversity and difference, that can affirm the spark of the divine in each and every human being, in which we do not harden our hearts, but rather we open up our hands. Thank you very much.
I need help.
Oh, all right.
Don't press wow. See, we graduate after the Jewish community speaks.
Wait, let me go again.
We'll have a duet. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May peace be upon you all. My name is Mustafa Muhammad Ali from the Islamic Center of Olympia, and I had no time at all to prepare for this beautiful gathering. So I will begin with thanking all of you for being here today, and to send our heartfelt message of condolence to the families and people who have been impacted by the events in Charlotte, and for their courage in standing up to the kind of impacts that could have had should they have not stood up against Nazism, racism. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank the wider community here in Olympia, the faith leaders, the community leaders, for having supported and being a place to be and to evolve for minorities right here in Olympia. Thank you. I would also like to convey that whilst some leaders can only see beyond up to the next election, we as faith leaders and community leaders have to endure the decisions and the impacts they make for years and sometimes for generations to come. And what we have to bear in mind really is what our children and our grandchildren will be experiencing in this incredible community and in this incredible nation of all colors and of all kinds. I am thankful, I am grateful for this nation and for its governance for having allowed us as immigrants to have the same rights and responsibilities as other citizens in this nation. I am also grateful for the community for having allowed my children to be educated and to have ascended to levels of higher education that could have been impossible from where we came. From Stanford, one of my daughters is a Stanford graduate. And many of us serve in the military and have given the ultimate sacrifice. So with that, I would like to convey to everybody that whilst we are grateful for the status quo that we have, remember that this does not come easily. We have to ensure that whatever decisions that we make, wherever we are going, we keep it friendly and loving and amenable for the generations to come, for our children and for ourselves. With that, I would like to share with you a verse from our scripture, the Quran, which speaks to everybody. Chapter 49, verse 13 says, "O mankind, we created you from a single pair of a man and a female, and made you into nations and tribes, so that you may learn and know each other, not so that you may despise and fight each other. For verily, the closest to me amongst you is the one most righteous, best in conduct." With that, I would like to again underline that we all are one nation under God, indivisible, with freedom and justice for all. Thank you.
I'm the Reverend Carol McKinley, a minister affiliated with the Olympia Unitarian Universalist Congregation. This past weekend, we again witnessed acts of hate against peaceful protesters, this time in the beautiful city of Charlottesville, Virginia. Unitarian Universalist President, the Reverend Susan Frederick Gray, was in Charlottesville last weekend, and she said, "Fear and hatred corrupt our humanity and cut us off from the spirit, from the holy, from goodness and beauty, and the possibilities of all creation. These attacks on peaceful marchers in Charlottesville were attacks on you, me, and every American. The death of Heather Heyer, 32 years of age, killed Saturday by a driver motivated by hate, is a death that takes a piece of life from each one of us. Let us respond to Heather's death and the injuries suffered by many others with prayers and actions that bring inclusion, respect, and love to those who, in the face of unrelenting attacks on dignity and equality, continue to speak out, march, and yes, suffer to ensure American values of decency and the democratic process prevail. Tonight, as people of faith and of conscience, we stand with Charlottesville and with all those who stand on the side of love. Said Reverend Frederick Gray, only love can truly confront this corruption that puts our democracy, our liberty, and our personal safety at risk. Love is more powerful than any weapon, even when it doesn't feel that way. The faith and the courage of our ancestors in movements of resistance and liberation show us this truth. So it is up to us, each one of us, to unite against the evils of white supremacy, neo-Nazism, anti-Semitism, xenophobia, and fascism. Tonight, we represent diverse faith traditions in this community, and each tradition calls us to resist hate, to resist violent extremism, and to live into the dream of a world in which bigotry, hate, and persecution no longer exists. We must show up, and we must continue to show up for love and justice and to stand on the side of love. May each of us here tonight be inspired to show up again and again and again, and to rededicate ourselves to peaceful action, compassionate understanding, and to our faith in a world made free of fear and suffering. So may it be.
My name is Elizabeth Ullery Swenson. I am the pastor for the new church, Wildwood Gathering. There we go. Is that better? Yes. My name is Elizabeth Ullery Swenson. I am the pastor for Wildwood Gathering. This evening and this afternoon, as we were getting ready for this, I was talking with a friend of mine who printed off these banners. Kai and I were discussing what the banners should say. Should it say, stand in solidarity with Charlottesville? Should it say, stand on the side of love? Should it say, love trumps hate? What should these signs say? Because this weekend, the violence erupted in Charlottesville with catastrophic repercussions. But there was violence in Seattle, and there was violence on Evergreen's campus not that long ago. And there are threats of violence in cities across our country. This is not just an isolated incident. There was a Facebook thing that went around that had the map of where all of these known hate groups are. 21 in Washington State. This is not a Southern problem. This is not a Virginia problem. This is a United States problem. And we must take ownership of it. My fellow white people, this is our problem. To that end, with my community this weekend, I printed off some prayers and psalms and meditations to help us in our work, and one that seems appropriate for this evening. It's from a Buddhist, Pema Chodron, from the book When Things Fall Apart. Generally speaking, we regard discomfort in any form as bad news. But for practitioners of spiritual warriors, people who have a certain hunger to know what is true, feelings like disappointment, embarrassment, irritation, resentment, anger, jealousy, and fear, instead of being bad news, are actually very clear moments that teach us where it is that we are holding back. They teach us to perk up and lean in when we feel we'd rather collapse and back away. They're like messengers that show us with terrifying clarity exactly where we're stuck. This very moment is the perfect teacher, and lucky for us, it's with us wherever we are. Most of us do not take these situations as teachings. We automatically hate them. We run like crazy. We use all kinds of escaping. All addictions of all forms stem from this moment when we meet our edge and we just can't stand it. There are so many ways that have been dreamed up to entertain us away from this moment. Friends, let us not be entertained away from this moment. Let us not be distracted by the work at hand. There is much to do, but we are capable, if only we lean into the discomfort. May it be so.
Hi, I'm Mother Keta Keto from Emmaus Catholic Ecumenical Communion. And, okay, all right. I tend to move around, so. Okay. Anyway, I don't want to repeat what everybody's been saying about how terrible children are.
Might not be really like.
Let me eat it. Okay. Everybody has expressed their outrage and sadness about what happened in Charlottesville. But where I went when I got this last-minute call from Denny, as I went deep into my tradition and I said, what's going to give me hope? What's going to make me tackle this world that I live in and try to make it better and to believe that I can? And I ended up with one of my favorite Catholic writers, and that's Julian of Norwich. Some of you may know her. And she lived in the 14th century when everything was falling apart around her. People were dying all around her. And many were saying that we have a very wrathful God and humanity is being punished by all this death. And Julian went into that quiet place to find out what is God, who is God, and what is God up to. And what she discovered was this God of love, not a punishing God, but a God of love who wanted people to love one another and care for one another. The other thing she learned in these visions that she had was that God is the essence of life, and that all are one, and we all come as one creation from God, and we are all going back to God as one creation. And so this oneness of our diversity is something that I want to hang on to and rely on and lean into. But our oneness is so often hidden from us. The world systems work against us, recognizing our oneness with each other. And we've got to resist that. We have to resist the divide and conquer of those who want more power, of those who are greedy. You know that they divide us in order to pit us against one another. And so we fail to recognize our oneness. Now, one thing I always say to my congregation that helps me to recognize the God in each person is to remember that every baby comes into this world ready to be loved and ready to learn how to love. Every baby comes into the world ready to love, and you need to teach that love to your children. Something goes wrong along the way, but we need to remember that deep in our beginnings is that seed of love. Now, our sacred scriptures are always talking to us about hospitality. In fact, what I've discovered is that hospitality is an essential behavior of every human being if you want to please God. If you look in our sacred scriptures, you will see that God gets the angriest when people fail in hospitality. So we need to learn this thing called hospitality. And if you've forgotten what hospitality is when another person can feel that they are at home when they are with you. So let's become more hospitable. Yes, we're also called to love one another as God loves us, but we can at least strive for hospitality.
Hello, my name is Robert Levitt. I'm a Buddhist practitioner. I'm not a Buddhist teacher, and I'm not a congregation leader. I'm just a run-of-the-mill Buddhist practitioner. I am part of the Buddhist Peace Fellowship group here. So when Danny called today and he asked me if I wanted to say something, I called back and left a message. I'm going to be there, but I'm not sure if I get something to say. And a lot has already been said and echoes in my heart. But I did want to talk about something I really enjoy in Buddhism, and that is its tool chest. And someone mentioned Pema Chodron. Pema Chodron, before she was famous back in 1986 in a Buddhist hardware store called Karma Choling, actually introduced me to a Buddhist tool about compassion called Tong Lin. And being a male, I never read the instructions completely. And it turns out it's a trifold instruction sheet, but I had only read the middle part that stood out the most, and I started applying compassion towards other people. But eventually, in the last 30-some years, I've realized, ooh, I missed page 1. And since November 8th, I guess I have been a little preachy, although I'm not a preacher. I have been talking about page 1 quite a bit. And page 1 is the compassion for ourselves. And there's that well-worn metaphor about being on a plane, and the steward tells us, you hit turbulence, the oxygen mask falls down, you put it on yourself first, then you work with other people. Well, I've always ignored that. I've been gone right on to other people. But now, since November 8th, we're all hitting a lot of turbulence. And it's wave after wave, day after day. Pulse nightclub, Ferguson, Charlottesville. It's hard to keep up with. And so that I don't go into despair and shut down, I've gone back to page 1. So I wonder if you would indulge me and go through all 3 pages very quickly. But page 1 is just sending comfort and healing to ourselves. So if you'd indulge me, I just want to take about 7 breaths as you take breath, deep breath, and send to yourself this beautiful light and fresh smoke-free air. There's a little bit of comfort and healing to yourself during this turbulence. Page 2 you're all familiar with, and that's sending healing prayer and comfort to people in harm, people who have been bloodied in Charlottesville, their families, police who were hurt, killed, Let's spend a few minutes, a few breaths, sending our compassion, comfort, and light to the people that we know were hurt. Beautiful. The third page is the trickiest, the hardest. It's the one we turn away from. It's sending love and compassion to those who harmed others. There was a beautiful event at the Olympia Center recently for the Dalai Lama's birthday. And the Dalai Lama talked about people that harm others in a very endearing way. He called them troublemakers. Not enemies, not evildoers, but troublemakers. And something about that phrase made me think of Art Becker in 4th grade. He used to beat everybody up. And it made it easier for me to think about sending the same loving kindness to people who do harm. I've been thinking about our eclipse coming up and how we know that things will change and the light will come back. Some of these people that have harmed others, I think, are locked in, chained in darkness. And why don't we take a few breaths to the best of our ability to send prayers of hope and compassion for their happiness. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, one and all, for coming. And wow, after such beautiful love and devotion to the fact that Charlottesville has lost so many of their members, and they were family in of themselves. And the way that Olympia should be is that we should be one big, huge family. I am a representative from Just Housing, and we are literally losing also our family members here on the streets as well. And which we have a particular person named Pixie. She just died this last week, including of which we just found out a Mike has also died as well on Saturday. So many of our brothers and sisters are dying out on the streets as well because of discrimination, because of racial hatred, because of hatred just for the fact that we are homeless and that we have low income and that we are filled with so many diverse minority groups, LGBTQI and veterans and so many other organizations are all in this houseless category. And we are all getting discriminated even out on these streets ourselves here today. And Charlottesville is just one big, huge example of how if we don't come together as one big, huge family, if we cannot come together, then how are we going to avoid having another Charlottesville show up at our own doorstep? It's already happening. We're losing people because of the persecution, because of the hatred, because of the discrimination. And even the scriptures state itself. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me. Then the righteous will answer him, Lord, when did you see you hungry, feed you, or thirsty, and give you something to drink? When did we see you a stranger, a homeless stranger, or any stranger among us, or a friend among us, and invite you in, or needing clothes, and clothe you? When did we see you sick? There's people out here so sick beyond belief with cancer and so many other infirmities, and we need the help. Or in prison and go to visit you. Yes, we have our minorities, the people that have, yes, as this gentleman over here had stated, that, yeah, they have made bad choices, but now they want to come back and do better for themselves and be a better member of society. And the king will reply, truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters, meaning family, we are all family of mine. They are his children, as this beautiful lady stated over here. We are all God's children. We are all the children of one form of another, of a person. So thus, you did it for me. So please, please, help Just Housing end the discrimination against even those who are out on these streets too. And we do honor, and I hope to God that we will not have a Charlottesville show up on our doorstep. Please help Just Housing and its cause, and come back on September 3rd here at 1 o'clock, because we're going to have an open forum meeting, community meeting, so that way we can address this issue, so we don't have another Charlottesville ever happen again. Thank you, and have a great day.
My name is Amy Hessel, and I'm the pastor at the Lutheran Church of the Good Shepherd right here in Olympia. And I want to echo my predecessor here in conversation, that we need always to be aware of who is on the margins. In fact, let's push even further. Let us create a town, a nation, a world where there are no margins. Imagine that for a moment. No one is marginalized. We all are one. Faith communities here have worked very, very hard at pulling together what is known as the Olympia Charter of Compassion. And our community and our council have all validated that, embraced it. I don't know if this has ever been done, perhaps it has, but there are a lot of the Charters of Compassion circulating around. Raise your hand if you have one right now. So let's look at that, and let's read this all together. If you don't have one in your hand, stand next to somebody who does. And it's also on the internet. It is at olycompassion.org. olycompassion.org. Are we ready? As a community, we recognize the inherent worth and dignity of all persons. In doing so, we strive to practice respect and compassion towards one another, engage in civil dialogue, honor each individual as we ourselves would like to be honored. We recognize our interdependence. In doing so, we strive to work collaboratively, bring all voices to the table to solve community issues for the benefit of everyone. We believe we must create a society where all people are able to live into their best selves. In doing so, we use our best efforts to work together for the common good. This means that public officials and citizens speak out with one voice
against bigotry, racism, and religious prejudice. We strive to live our shared values as we work to build a community that welcomes and respects the unique gifts brought by all those who make up our diverse Olympia community.
This is a charter. It is something that we have embraced. But in the words of a very wise woman I know, some of you may know her, Stephanie Powell. She's one of only 3 immigration attorneys here in town. She said, and now you have to put some teeth in it. And this is how we put some teeth in it. We put teeth in it by speaking out, by showing up, by taking opportunity to share and publicize this charter, and by acting. Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight.
Hello, my name is Ace. I am from Alexandria, Virginia, and I've been living in Olympia for about 3 years now. Is that better? Yes. Okay, so I'm from Alexandria, Virginia. I've been living in Olympia for about 3 years, and I've learned that this is a very kind and caring place, in my opinion. I look at all the signs of, love and no hate and peace, and that's something I believe in. I don't believe in violence. I'm a part of a group on social media called Olympia Rallies or something like that, and there was some posts in there about somebody making pins that say "Punch the Nazi," and I thought that was not right. We're supposed to be spreading compassion and that type of thing. Instead of publicizing, having a pin right there that says "Punch the Nazi." What if a kid looks at that? He's like, this kid that's bullying me is probably a Nazi, so I can punch him. Kids take things differently than we do. And I made a post about that, sharing my opinion. My opinion is my opinion, it's not facts. It's just what I think. And I received a lot of hate from that, from a lot of Olympian people. Talking about how, Nazis, they don't understand anything but violence. They need to be killed and punched and that type of thing. And I disagreed with that. And very few people shared my opinion. A lot of people were against me, and that's not something that I feel Olympia is about. These bad things happen all over, where, the way we are interacting with people or acting or treating each other obviously is not working. Little things that we do affect people. There's mass shootings from people, and we don't know what goes on in their mind, but it's how we treat them, how we talk to them, the little things that we say. We need to watch exactly what we say, and things affect people differently. Another thing is, there's a lot of, people talk about asking white people to do this or to do that, and white people can't talk about racism because they don't understand it, they don't experience it. Racism, to me, comes from black, white, green, orange, whatever color you are, you can experience it. And just because a white person has an opinion on POCs does not mean their opinion is wrong. POCs go through a lot, but white people also go through a lot. Just because you have privilege in certain areas, to me, doesn't mean you have privileges in everything. And we all have opinions, and we should all listen to each other. And again, these are my opinions and thoughts, subject to change. Thank you.
Good afternoon. This is a poem I wrote to those that are hiding in darkness. In the light of truth and love, you cannot hide. Cover your words, cover your face, cover your secrets, cover your lies. You cannot hide from love and truth. Cover your fear, cover your eyes, cover the light, cover your lies. You cannot hide from truth and love. Cover the lynching, cover of darkness, cover the stench, cover your lies. You cannot hide from truth and love. Cover the crimes, cover your fright, cover your fears, cover your lies, but you cannot hide from the eternal love and light. You cannot hide.
Good afternoon, good evening. I'm Reverend Amy LaCroix from First Christian Church here in Olympia, and thank you so much for all of you for being here. It's a beautiful group gathered, and I appreciate all of the speakers and poetry and everyone's expression, and your deep care and concern that we are living in troubled times and that we need to do something about it. In just a few minutes, I'm going to go into City Council and I'm going to deliver this statement. And since I'm delivering it sort of on your behalf, I would share it with you as a way of wrapping things up. Please don't boo. I stand before you tonight representing a larger group of interfaith clergy, leaders, and congregation members who are holding a peaceful vigil on the steps of City Hall. We are here to stand in solidarity with Charlottesville, Virginia, to stand in love in the face of tremendous hate and evil. On Saturday, August 12th, Heather Heyer was struck down and killed by a man so consumed by the values of white supremacy that he drove his car into a crowd who had gathered to protest the white supremacist rally. Most of us watched with horror and deep despair the violence unfold in Charlottesville. Senseless acts of violence, unimaginable words of hate being spewed. The ugliness and evil of racism in our country fully revealed. Our hearts are broken. We shed tears for the loss of life. Heather's young life and the lives of the 2 state troopers who died in the helicopter crash. We are sickened by the slogans chanted that proclaimed values of hate, separatism, and violence. We can no longer afford to be silent. We can no longer be passive. We must take an active stance against hate. We must stand up and claim that hate has no home in our country and certainly not in our city, not in Olympia. I am here for 2 reasons. The first is to inform you of our desire to be a peaceful and constructive presence in the face of such violence, racism, classism, and militarism. The second is to urge you to remember and take seriously your pledge as signers of the Olympia Charter of Compassion. One of the points of the charter that you signed reads, "As a community, we believe we must create a society where all people are able to live into their best selves. In doing so, we use our best efforts to work together for the common good. This means that public officials and citizens speak with one voice against bigotry, racism, and religious prejudice. Now more than ever, we need you, as the City Council, to govern with compassion. Now more than ever, we need you to recognize every person living in the city, housed or unhoused, people of color, white, rich, poor, heterosexual, transgender, gay, lesbian, bisexual, business owner, or pauper as citizens worthy and recognized. We need you to use your powers of governance to build up and create wholeness rather than divide. Now more than ever, we need you to think twice before you pass an ordinance that would other a person rather than include and recognize each person as a valued part of the whole, a citizen. Reverend William Barber II, who is the head of the North Carolina NAACP and the leader of the repairs of the breach campaign, and also happens to be part of my denomination. He said this today to our nation's leaders, and I quote, "To say you are against white supremacy without standing against the rhetoric that emboldens white supremacists and the policies they endorse reeks of a terrible ignorance or deliberate hypocrisy. After Charlottesville, our nation is presented with a clear fork in the road. We must make a moral choice. We can take the righteous road of repair or we can follow those who would lead our nation down the road of denial and retreat." End quote. Tonight, I urge you as our entrusted, elected city leaders to do your part to lead our city down the righteous road of repair. We need your compassionate leadership now more than ever. Thank you.
All right.
Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up the freedom land. Ain't gonna let no hatred turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let no hatred turn me around. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up the freedom land. Ain't gonna let injustice turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let injustice turn me around. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up the freedom's land.
So I know it's moving on 7, and so we're going to formally bring things to a close for those who wish. Amy's going to go into the city council for all those who wish to go into the city council. But we know as we've heard these words today, but please continue to stay if you wish to stay. This is how we build community, by being together, by meeting one another, by sharing friendship and words with one another. On this beautiful evening, what a time to do it, tonight. So as we move from this sacred space and this evening, we lean into the work, as we've heard. We have work to do ahead of us. So this is just a stopping point on the way. We join together to build strength from one another, but we know that we have the work of building a better community ahead of us, here, at home, and across our country. And we think of these words from the Hebrew liturgy, the Jewish liturgy, Hine ma tov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. How wonderful, how beautiful, how glorious it is when all of us can join together and dwell together and be together as one. So I wish you all, may we all go in peace to a better and stronger and a more just world. Amen.